Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. Today we've got a really fun, super practical explainer lined up for you, straight from our source material on mastering the English language. We're going to look at a highly effective, totally out-of-the-box technique for permanently locking English idioms right into your brain. I mean, we've all been there, right? Staring at endless lists of phrases, trying to force them into our memory, only to draw a complete blank the second we actually need to use them in real life. Well, today, we're throwing out the traditional rote memorization playbook. Instead, we're going to use a dynamic, highly visual, and honestly kind of wild method to master a conversation packed with tricky idioms.
So, it begs the big question, how do you memorize an entire conversation full of tricky idioms? Usually, learning colloquial expressions is, well, it's a massive hurdle. They don't translate literally, and if you just try to memorize them from a textbook, they feel so dry and disconnected. Today's source material takes us through a narrative called Amber Comes Over to Bake Cookies. We're going to read through this short idiom-dense scene first. I want you to listen closely to the flow and just try to spot the expressions as they fly by. Once we've set the stage, we'll break out an incredible cognitive tool to anchor every single one of these phrases deep into your spatial memory. Let's step right into the kitchen and hear how this conversation unfolds.
Hi everyone, I brought my own apron. I'm ready to get down to business.
Glad you could make it, Amber.
I love your new haircut, Susan. It's all the rage this season.
Thanks, Amber. You know your stuff when it comes to fashion.
I try. Now let's see these cookies. Ted, you're in good hands. I'm a master baker.
I know, Amber. You haven't lost your touch since we baked those brownies last month.
You might pick up a few tricks of the trade today.
Okay, everyone, let's start. Too many cooks spoil the broth, so I'll be in charge.
And there you have it, a perfectly natural conversation. Yet it is absolutely loaded with 7 distinct English idioms. Now, how do we make sure those actually stick? Well, we turn to the memory palace. Pioneered and popularized by memory experts like Tony Buzan, this is a mental technique that leverages something human beings are naturally incredible at, which is spatial memory. Instead of trying to remember abstract words on a page, we're going to link these idioms to specific physical locations using association and, crucially, extreme exaggeration. Seriously, the weirder, the louder, the more bizarre the image you create in your head, the better your brain is going to hold on to it.
Let's move to and see how this builds a beginner-friendly kitchen baking station journey. We're going to mentally walk through a really specific sequence in a kitchen. We'll start at the entryway, look up at the kitchen light, move over to the spice rack, glance at the oven mitts, check the countertop, look at a recipe book, and finally end up at a giant cooking pot. By placing an exaggerated visual that represents an idiom at each of these physical anchor points, we're creating a foolproof mental map. You won't just remember the phrases. You'll be able to literally walk back through the room in your mind's eye and pick them up one by one. So, let's start placing our idioms.
We begin right at the entryway. Our first idiom is get down to business, which means to start working seriously. Imagine standing at the doorway of your kitchen. Suddenly, Amber slides into the room on her knees like a baseball player sliding into home plate, but she's not wearing an apron, no way. She's wearing this incredibly sharp, oversized corporate business suit, clutching a briefcase and literally screaming, "I'm here for business!" It's completely absurd, but the sheer hilarity of someone sliding across a kitchen floor in a 3-piece suit, that locks the phrase get down to business directly to your entryway.
Next, you step inside and look up at the kitchen light. Our idiom here is all the rage, which just means something is currently very popular or fashionable. Look up at that light fixture. Instead of a normal bulb, the fixture is completely covered in a roaring, screaming neon blue fire. The fire is literally raging, and as it vigorously burns, it's loudly screaming fashion tips at you right from the ceiling. It's wild, right? But whenever you think of something being incredibly fashionable now, you'll immediately look up in your memory palace, see that raging blue fire, and boom! Remember, it's all the rage.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we handle abstract concepts like knowledge. Let's move over to the spice rack. The idiom is know your stuff, meaning to be highly knowledgeable or skilled in a particular area. Picture your spice rack. But instead of oregano or cinnamon, every single glass jar has a tiny, living human face inside it. Yep, they're little tiny professors wearing little glasses. And as you walk by, they all start simultaneously reciting whole encyclopedias of stuff. They are literally throwing knowledge at you. This deeply weird visual permanently connects the spice rack with people who definitively know their stuff.
Moving right along, your eyes fall on the oven mitts hanging nearby. The idiom here is in good hands, which means being in the safe, competent care of someone. To make this unforgettable, imagine those normal-sized oven mitts suddenly inflating. They grow until they are massive, 5-foot-wide padded mitts. In fact, they're so huge that they detach from the wall and gently, softly reach down to cradle the entire kitchen and you like a precious, fragile treasure. You are literally wrapped up in giant, warm, protective hands. You're safe. You are in good hands.
Then you step up to the countertop to inspect the baking prep. The idiom is lost your touch, meaning you no longer have the ability or skill you once had. Picture a delicious, freshly baked cookie sitting right there on the counter. You reach out to touch it, but as you do, your fingers turn pale and translucent. Your hand has turned into a ghost. You try to grab the cookie, but your ghost hand passes straight through the countertop into thin air. You literally cannot touch it anymore. You have, vividly, physically lost your touch.
Right next to where you tried to grab that cookie, there's a recipe book open on a stand. The idiom is tricks of the trade, referring to clever shortcuts or specialized skills known by professionals. But this isn't just a book of ingredients. Oh no, this recipe book has come alive. The pages are shuffling themselves, performing elaborate magic card tricks right in front of your eyes. Suddenly, the book opens wide and actually pulls a live squirming rabbit out from between its pages. It is literally showing you magic tricks. This is your mental anchor for tricks of the trade. Finally, we reach the end of our journey at the stove, looking at a giant soup pot. The idiom is, too many cooks spoil the broth, meaning that if too many people try to manage the same task, it's going to be ruined. Imagine a soup pot so unbelievably large that it fills the entire room, blocking out everything else. And crawling all over the rim of this monstrous pot are 100 tiny, angry chefs in full uniform. They are fighting, tripping over each other, yelling, and furiously dumping massive buckets of salt directly into the bubbling soup until it is an absolute disaster. This chaotic, crowded, completely ruined scene perfectly encapsulates too many cooks spoil the broth.
By walking through that mental kitchen, those idioms aren't just words on a page anymore, are they? They are vivid, colorful, and completely unforgettable experiences. You've successfully linked language to location, and honestly, that is a superpower for learning. The beautiful thing about this technique is that it's infinitely scalable. You can use your bedroom for vocabulary, your living room for historical dates, or maybe your garage for mathematical formulas. The possibilities are endless. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge to apply what you've just learned. Which room in your house will you use for your next memory journey? Take a walk around it today, pick your anchors, and realize that a perfect memory isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. So start building your palace today.